Welcome, everyone, to the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. The Pittsburgh Steelers moved to 5-3 on the season with a victory over the Chicago Bears.
Dramatic pause there.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Hey, it's a win. The NFL, there's no ugly wins. You just win. You take them any way you get them. And to discuss tonight, Ian is here, Ben is here, and Ben was live on location in Heinz Field for that one Monday night, so anxious to get his thoughts as well. But Ian, your general thoughts on what occurred Monday night in the Steel City?
My goodness, I'm glad we walked out of that stadium with a win. Balance was restored to the universe thanks to Chris Boswell, which, when he missed that extra point, I was like, oh, shit, here we go. This is going to come back to bite us. And it fucking did, but they also left Ben with too much time. And it was, Ben did what he needed to do and drove the team down the field and got us in position to win. And when I saw, the camera angle on the game-winning field goal for the Bears was heart palpitation inducing with how it looked like he nearly made that.
You're talking about the 65-yard attempt.
65-yarder. Yeah. That when I'm
watching, it was right on line.
Live, it was right on line. Yeah. And it looked like he hit the crossbar, but then when they showed the other angle that he missed by like 8
yards short.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is fine. But yeah, I'm glad that I don't have a history of heart condition because I don't know if I could take this whole season. This has been a roller coaster of a season, but hey, we've won 4 games in a row, and in the NFL, that is not an easy thing to do. Look what else happened this week, right? The friggin' Jaguars beat the Bills. The Ravens got taken to overtime by the Vikings, who are not real good. There's been a number of games that Jets
Dallas was down 30-0 at home to Denver.
Broncos, the Broncos who can't play run defense to save their life and traded Von Miller. All of a sudden, Dallas, who's got 2 pretty good running backs in Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard, couldn't run the ball, and it was just like, So we escaped that one, and I think we all said last week it was going to be stupidly close because stupid things always. I said last week, stupid things always happen against the Bears.
Yeah,
and after the Bears scored, I was just ready to tweet like, okay, all we have to do is hold on to the ball and we'll be fine. And then Ray Mcleod fumbles on the kickoff, and I didn't even get a chance to hit tweet. And I was like, well, fuck, I got to delete this now, and like not tweeting this shit because now it's like a one possession game. And so there was just, they played. This team is so frustrating because they play so well. And then they just like find a way to forget how to play offense for a quarter and let the other team back in it. And I know we'll get into it more, but the defensive game plan was really questionable. I knew they were respecting Justin Fields' ability to run, but like the playing off zone coverage in the secondary and giving him wide open windows to throw to. I was like, at some point, are we going to play man defense, or are we just going to keep playing these like wide zones? And we just kept playing the wide zones that let them get back in it.
Yeah, Ben, you were there, and what's your general thought on the 29-27 win?
Well, 2 things. One, there was a Bears fan sitting next to me, and the first thing he said when they scored that last touchdown was, I think they gave him too much time.
That's an astute fan right there.
And I said, I think you're probably right, but remains to be seen. The offense hasn't been great. Ben kind of knows what he's doing, so if he just needs to get down there, say 40 yards to get a field goal, that's a whole heck of a lot different than going the end of the length of the field for a touchdown.
Definitely.
So sure enough, Boswell gets in there and kicks it. And it's good. It's all good. That last kick that Ian mentioned, obviously I didn't see it on TV. I was sitting on that side of the field, and I could see how short it was. And I never thought for even a second that it was going to get there.
Yeah, from your angle, you would have known. Right
not
away.
Even for a moment. I mean, it barely got into the end zone, much less got to the crossbar. So it was like, no, he doesn't have this. Not even maybe. I thought it was like 75 yards when I was sitting there watching it, but it was only 65.
Yeah.
Still into the closed end, Heinz Field, off the turf. You know, that would have been a pretty major accomplishment if he'd made it, but that's too long a kick to ask a kicker to make, in my opinion. Agree with the observation that Ian made about the off-man coverage all night long, off-man, off-zone. It was just, especially in the second half, they didn't mix up coverages at all. They were just playing tackle the catch, tackle the catch, tackle the catch. Even when the Bears got back into the game, they didn't revert back to a different defense. Arthur Millett was terrible. Terrible. He had a really bad game.
Yeah. Although asking Arthur Millett to cover Allen Robinson is a bit of a
is ridiculous. I agree, but he had a lot of plays where he was well out of position in order to make a play on the ball, and it was just like, dude, really? But overall, good pressure from the front. Isaiah Buggs, I thought, had a nice game.
Nice game. Yep.
I think he really did. He's kind of stepping into his own now that he's not splitting reps with Carlos Davis, which kind of makes you wonder what's going to happen with Davis next year. Chris Wormley, not real strong. TJ Watt, obviously, very strong. Incredible game. That guy can play football. I mean,
he's a good player. Good solid player. Yeah.
Damn. He was everywhere. 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, just everywhere. And Cam, that interception out of nowhere, I don't know how in the heck.
Incredible.
I've watched the replay so many times. I have no idea how he did that.
Cam said, in an interview after the game, he said that he'd been working on he stayed after practice to work on a drill with some coaches doing that. And he's like, hey, just goes to show it pays off. I did a drill on this week and got an interception.
Nice.
Yeah. I think he called it like a bat and catch drill or something like that. They lobbed the ball up high and he had to tip it down to himself basically. But yeah.
Good for him.
I thought the offensive line played really, really, really poorly.
They were dog shit.
Like really badly. So everyone who is celebrating how great our offensive line was after that Bears game, well, sorry, they're not. And, they're inconsistent. They're a young group. It is what it is. I hope to see them get better, but they're not a good group. So, put that away and wait for a couple years. They'll be a good unit in a couple years, probably. I still have questions at right tackle. I know people were looking forward to Zach Banner coming back and playing out there. That didn't happen, but I don't know how much an improvement he would be over Chooks, especially in the pass pro.
Yeah. Run game, I think so. Not. I don't know about pass blocking.
Run game, probably.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen him play in over a year, so who knows? And let's be honest. He didn't play very well against the Giants last year when he tore his ACL.
Right.
So I'm not going to say it's a given. People keep coming back to it, but it's only because they want change for the sake of change because Chooks isn't playing that well.
Well, and they also like Zach Banner because he's a good guy.
Sure.
Let's call it what it is. Fans fall in love with players because they're great on social media. That does not always translate to their abilities on the football field.
No, exactly.
And that could be a hard lesson in this case. Obviously we hope not, but
I don't think that Dan Moore played as well as people are, as poorly as people are saying he played.
Right.
Kendrick Green got his ass kicked though.
Kendrick Green played
night.
really badly.
He cannot stand in and block. He's got to be on the move.
But no, that's not true. He's had better games standing in and blocking. He was going against a good player, but more to the point, again, he's a young player.
Yes.
And young players are allowed to improve over time where
absolutely,
guys that have been around for a while and are playing badly like Pouncey was last year, for example, they're not likely to get better. That's just reality. You know, unless there's some reason for that poor play, if they're injured or something along those lines. But if it's just Father Time taking its toll, well, no. So, yeah, I mean, that really was it. I thought the wide receivers played pretty well. I didn't think Najee Harris had much room to run, and when he did, he made the most of it. He played pretty damn well. It's pretty impressive. I also thought that they were keying on Najee all night, and that made his job very difficult. So, it was what it was.
Pat Freiermuth, though, 2 touchdowns. How about that, dude?
Combat catch. I mean, I don't know what more you can say about the kid. He's doing a lot of things really, really well right now. He also, his blocking on a couple of those outside plays was really good.
Yeah,
really good.
It was.
That's improved already in the first 8 weeks.
Yeah, I think Freiermuth is. I was really high on him coming out in the draft. I mean, we even had conversations on this show that they could consider, you know, if all their guys they liked were off the board at 24, they could say, hey, maybe the best way to, you know, I think Ben said this, that, hey, maybe the best way to improve the run game is to draft a tight end that can actually block the edge and take Pat Freiermuth. And, you know, I don't think he was a first round player, but I mean, man, he is. I was really high on him. I loved him in the middle of the second round, and I think he's lived up to what I thought he could be. You know, and the arrow's definitely pointing up for him too.
Yeah.
That said, I'm also in agreement that, like, you know, I wish we had drafted an offensive lineman somewhere earlier, but like the value for Freiermuth in the middle of the second round and what he's been able to do has been outstanding. And, like, you know, the arrow's only going to go up.
No, I agree. I do want to get your thoughts, both of you. Ben, I'll start with you. I guess you got to break this down here because a couple of different things happen. First of all, Cassius Marsh makes the sack, does his karate whirling dervish kick, and then does his taunt or not taunt, depending on your own personal definition.
Bench. He said something to the bench.
He claims he said nothing. It didn't look like on the television broadcast. I couldn't tell, but it didn't look like he said anything. But I'll just say,
on the replay on the field, it looked as though he said something and gestured to the sideline.
He definitely gestured to the sideline.
He said he didn't say anything that should have drawn a taunting penalty.
Okay, well, my feeling is that's exactly the type of thing they're trying to get out. You know, when Tomlin talks about it, you just made a huge play for your team, and your first thought is to go and stare at the other team's bench. That's what Tomlin and those guys are trying to get out on the competition committee. You know, it's that, and it's the in-your-face stuff. I get it.
Yeah.
And was it touchy? Absolutely. Was ticky-tack?
Yeah.
But that's what they're trying to get out.
Okay. Now, the definition, the call was correct.
Right.
But the rule is stupid. The rule is stupid. They've gone too far, and I mean, and that's what we do as Americans. We don't correct problems. We overcorrect.
Well, absolutely.
You know,
very reactive.
We try to come up with every single possible scenario and rule that out, and we screw things up. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you know, this goes back to the no fun league thing,
right?
I thought Tony Correnti backing into him was classless.
Well, that's the second part of this. Yeah.
Total bullshit. And then immediately threw the flag at him for him running into Marsh.
Right.
I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Ian, what was your take on it?
Well, I mean, I've been on the record on this show saying that Cassius Marsh sucks. And
he does. But he made a big play there.
He did.
That penalty helped the Steelers more than anything he ever did when he wore our jersey. So, you know, the other thing I'll say is that Tony Corrente was the official in the game where Jesse James caught the damn ball. Yep. And so we'll just consider this all a makeup call for that game. Everything that happened, makeup call. You know, in hockey, they do it all the time. That they make a bad call against one team, and they're like, okay, well, we called something ticky-tacky there. So next person that breathes on another player, you're going to get a penalty. So, you know, this entire game was a makeup call for the game where Jesse James caught the damn ball.
It felt like that at times, but I'm still trying to figure out what in the hell was Corrente thinking by sticking his hip out.
I don't know.
And he hadn't even thrown the flag yet.
Corrente said after the game in the pool report that the bump had nothing to do with the flag. My only thought, and you guys know me, I hate officials.
Right.
I hate officials. I hold grudges against them. So my only thought was that, if you really slow the video down, it looks like he's got his hand on his hip, reaching for the flag. Now, I don't know why he needs to lean his ass back to pull the flag out, but it seems like he's reaching for it and making sort of the pulling motion when Marsh runs into him. But that's really ticky-tacky. It was stupid. It was dumb. Yeah. Corrente's an asshole. He's always been an asshole. He sucked as a ref. He just sucks in general.
It's almost to me like NFL officials are trying to become like the NBA officials, who created the overly demonstrative charging calls, and block calls, and all in an effort to basically get some camera time. NFL officials, by and large, I mean, you got to go back to like Red Cashin, who was great because he had a personality, first down, that kind of thing. But now they're doing this shit. Yeah. I mean,
it's like who's the college basketball guy? Teddy Valentine. I think they call him TV Teddy.
God.
They call him TV Teddy because he always makes those big charging, blocking, offensive foul calls like with 1 minute left in the game, and he'll run out there,
Big Ten official Teddy Valentine. Yeah, Bobby Knight knows a lot about him.
Yeah.
Again, Tomlin stuck to his guns, and he wasn't going to go in any other direction. He's on the competition committee, and he's argued for that. So, thank you, Cassius, or should I say lead singer from Nickelback.
I think
sucks.
There are a couple of other things that need to be discussed.
Sure.
The general lack of discipline displayed by the Bears. They have 4 offsides calls. 4.
Yeah.
At one point, they had 2 in a row. 2 plays in a row. They were offsides. I was like, okay, and people are bitching about the fact that they're getting called for penalties.
Right.
They were lining up in the neutral zone on almost every play. Their tackles, the tackle specifically going against Watt, was jumping off on almost every
time.
Snap.
Yes.
Every snap. He got called for it and still was doing it. I mean, I don't know. I know that the Steelers were beneficiaries of some calls. At least I saw it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bears got away with a lot of shit that didn't get called, on top of the fact that they were still penalized 12 fucking times.
No, I agree with it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get 2 back-to-back encroachment penalties in the fourth quarter, crying out loud, what are you doing? So I didn't have any sympathy for him in those situations at all.
No, and that's that's simple discipline.
Yeah. And just real quick, everybody, let me remind you that the SCB Steelers podcast is presented by DEK Roofing of South Florida. DEK serves Broward and the southern Palm Beach counties, whether it's commercial, residential, industrial, or condos. Contact DEK Roofing today by visiting dekroofing.com. You guys alluded to the defensive game plan, and obviously when you sit in zone as often as they did, it kind of dictates that you're worried about the skills of the quarterback as a runner. But why in the hell, Ian, didn't they change it up a little bit more, especially in some certain situations where it really called for it?
I really don't know. I mean, they should have. I was sitting here waiting for them to play man or play some kind of trap coverage or something. Right. And there were a few plays, like the one sack that I think Watt had at the end where Minka was playing that robber coverage in the middle, right? That Justin Fields had to pull it down, and they showed the behind the play view on TV that Fields was gonna throw it to the slot guy coming on a slant, and then Minka came right down on top of it, and Fields pulled it down. That said, when you sit in those soft zones like that, you're also anticipating a quarterback that's not super accurate, that's gonna overthrow things, and kind of hoping to get some picks. And other than Cam's pick, obviously, but we didn't get any in the secondary. And there were some wayward passes out there. There were some tip balls. There were some things that fell to the turf that, if you're playing those soft zones, those are the things you have to take advantage of. And and we had our whole starting secondary too. It wasn't like we were trying to protect somebody that, if Joe Hayden was out, it's like, okay, we can't play press man because, we want James Pierre to play more off coverage or something like that. We had our whole starting secondary out there. And, the long pass to Allen Robinson that set up their last touchdown, I wasn't at the game. They really didn't show a zoomed out replay of it, but where the fuck were the safeties? Like, he came out of the slot and ran down the sideline on pretty much like a wheel go fly route kind of thing. And Fields made a really nice pass to hit him, but still, like, it's 3rd and long. Where are the safeties on this play? I wasn't in the stadium, so I couldn't see them. Because that's usually when I'm there, the first thing I look for is, all right, where are the safeties? And
there were several plays that as you were alluding to, Ian, I think Ben probably saw it better than we did. There were several plays where it looked like safeties were just not where they were supposed to be. And, and I don't want to just say it was a blown coverage per se, but it just looked that way. There were such big open pockets at times. It was just like, something's just not right. And Ben, before I get your thoughts too, you mentioned Arthur Millett, and he got yanked in the 4th quarter. They slid Sutton down into slot and they played Pierre on the edge. So
they should have done sooner.
Well, and there you go. So what were you seeing from your vantage?
A lot of soft zone, as we just talked about. The safeties weren't off all the time, but they were consistently, and generally speaking, Edmonds had responsibility for the tight end. And Minkah was kind of all over the place. Minkah was kind of he took some chances based on what I could see. Trying to make a play, trying to make some things happen. And he did at certain spots, but the safeties maybe were given a little bit too much freedom, especially in those 3rd and longs.
Right. Is Minkah in a position where he could be starting to press a little bit because he hasn't had those turnovers, or is it just one of those things? Yeah.
I don't think that was the case. I just didn't think that the defenses that were called were appropriate for the situation. It was like, let's respect this guy's running ability. Let's keep him in the pocket, but let's give him these great big windows to throw the ball into. Why?
Right. No,
what is the wisdom in this? What are you guys doing? What you did in the first half was working beautifully. Why aren't you sticking with that? No, let's play this soft zone. Let's play tackle the catch. Why?
Well, all in an effort that I think Fields must have just scared him too much. He's a good runner, don't get me wrong, but I mean,
he's a good runner, but credit where it's due. I mean, that hit that Minkah put on him on the sideline was completely inbounds. I mean, he was 3 steps inbounds. Definitely was in his head the whole rest of the game because he was pulling up and sliding and not taking hits.
I think he probably was told that he needed to not take that hit.
Definitely.
After he took it. But watching it happen there, I didn't think it was that. When it all happened live, full speed, I was like, "Oh God!" And then I watched the replay on the jumbotron. I was like, "Oh, that wasn't that bad."
Right. Yeah. Right. And he popped right up.
Yeah. It wasn't just he popped right up. He didn't take a shot in any of his soft targets, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah. Right.
He didn't get hit in the shoulders. He didn't get hit in the head. Obviously, thank goodness.
Yeah.
The knees, the ribs. It was just a square pop right in the chest, and it was like boom.
Yeah, it was more of a leverage thing. Minkah hit him in the chest and he went flying.
Yeah. So Nagy probably said to him, listen, you need to not do that, okay? Because you can't take those kind of shots.
Yeah, you're not going to be long for the league if you're taking those kind of shots. It isn't just that.
They didn't have a backup quarterback. Foles was out.
Right.
Yeah.
It was him or nothing.
Yes. The classic emergency quarterback, some receiver comes in there. That would have been fun.
I will say on Minkah, though, that I agree with Ben. I think it's more of a schematic thing than a Minkah pressing thing that they've been moving him around a lot more this year, even like not necessarily down to the slot, but more into I guess like in a cover 2, he's not playing a deep zone anymore. He's playing that middle zone, trying to set him up to get picks on those middle routes.
Yeah.
But in some cases, you're also taking, your best deep safety and moving him up the field rather than letting him play deep and see things in front of him and attack it. So I think Minka's play this year is more schematic than it is, him having a bad year.
And we've seen a couple times exactly what you're talking about, where he's played a little closer up. Teams have taken advantage of that.
Yes.
The Raiders did. And I think, was it the Seahawks maybe that did once or twice, just off the top of my head, I know, but and that's the risk you take.
The Bengals did, I'll say.
Bengals. Yeah, that was the other one. Yeah. Offensively, Ben, you mentioned the offensive line. I think when you have a young offensive line, you're going to have some games where you improve, but it's not uncommon to have games where you fall back too. And it certainly did this week. What else was lacking on this offense? Were you overly impressed with Canada's skills on Monday night? What was going on there for you?
Ben's deep ball was lacking.
Yes, it was.
He said his arm got hit on the one.
It looked like it did, only because the ball was fluttering like a wounded duck.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that
but I don't know.
Was at least 7 or 8 yards short of where it needed to be.
Easy.
It was still a completion,
right?
But the pass was well short.
Yeah.
I mean, that might have gone for a touchdown had Ben hit him in stride.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the old Ben would have done.
Right. Yeah. I got to go back and look at that. Because when he first threw it, I thought that he'd been hit just by the way it came out, but I don't know. So the Steelers will have likely, obviously they're without Juju for the rest of the season. It looks like they're going to be without Chase Claypool this week, possibly next.
A few weeks, sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're looking at Deontay, James Washington,
Ray,
probably
Anthony
Ray.
Miller.
Anthony Miller, I think. Has he been called up from the practice squad yet?
Not yet, but he will be.
I think
he will be too. Ray McLeod. Ian, why do they need to make a change, or why don't they? I don't know. You tell me.
I mean, he was not good with the tuck on the kickoff return. He hasn't been as explosive as what we had kind of hoped for. And I mean, you can't have turnovers in the kicking game. In today's NFL, if they kick the ball into the end zone, it's stupid to run it out, right? I mean, you get the ball on the 25-yard line.
Don't tell the Bears that.
It's rare. They ran it out and got it to like the 16, and I was
8 yards deep sometimes.
Yeah, and I was like, "What are they doing?" Like they're giving up like sometimes 10 or 12 yards of field position by not taking a knee. So, but on punt returns too, he's been sure-handed until this game. So, at this point, I'm willing to give him another chance and be like, all right, kid made one mistake. He admitted it after the game. He said, I didn't tuck the ball away. I wasn't holding on to it as tight as I should, and it came out. So yeah, it was a big play in the game. It was a devastating turn of events. But I think, I don't know if they have anyone else right now that you can really stick back there either, because Kobe White's not a kick returner.
No.
Washington's not a kick returner. I mean, maybe Deontay Johnson's a punt returner, but Deontay Johnson's also had fumbling issues his entire career. Fumbling and, securing the ball issues. So I don't know if he's the guy I would trust back there. He's got the elusiveness in the moves.
He's got a punt return for touchdown. Yeah.
But he doesn't have, I don't think he has the hands of an Antonio Brown. So,
no.
I think at this point it's either it's probably McLeod, or you just stick somebody back there to fair catch it every time. I don't know. They don't really have anyone else on the roster right now. That said, you can find guys out there who are college kick returners who can do some things for you.
Right.
So I wouldn't be shocked if they brought some, especially with Claypool's injury, if they brought someone into the practice squad who could do the kick returning stuff and kind of brought them along for a few weeks just to kind of see and be like, letting McLeod know, like, hey, you're on your last chance here. You screwed up once. Okay, but this is your last chance. Like, don't screw it up again.
Yeah. Ben, do you think he's more primarily needed right now as a receiver anyway, just because of how short they are because of injuries?
Probably. I mean, they're at minimum, they're going to sign one to the practice squad.
Right.
But there's nobody really out there, man.
No. And the thing with Ray on punt returns, especially, what drives me insane is the ones he lets bounce. And look, it's not an easy job. I think if anybody thinks that it's easy to field a punt, especially night games, windy days, rainy days, it's not easy. Okay. But my thing is you got to go up and field the punt because we're losing yardage, and it's that extra yardage that we lose that can be the difference between, going for it on fourth down or being in range for Boswell.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me about his current punt returning abilities. And obviously the fumble was just, and he knows, as Ian said, he admitted it was just an awful, awful mistake. So I think they ride with him. Tomlin said they would, and hopefully he just takes care of the ball. At this point, that's really my big concern right now anyway. Yeah. So, guys, let me talk real quick about our friends at DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN. Bet $1 on either team to score and win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with promo code TPPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. And again, thanks to DraftKings, who are huge sponsors of the Pigskin Podcast Network, which we are very, very pleased to be a part of. Okay, guys. Lions come in this week. I'm terrified. I'm absolutely terrified. This team is winless. I live in an area where there are both many Bears fans and many Lions fans. I've gotten through 1 week. Now I have to get through another. Am I overly concerned, too concerned, or should I be concerned, Ian?
Well, in honor of we record this on Thursday night, obviously. So yesterday was the 10th, which is the 46th anniversary of the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald, hence my name being Ernest McSorley tonight, who is the captain of the fated ship.
Yep.
The Detroit Lions are somewhere between where, to quote Gordon Lightfoot, the water's coming in and the ship and crew are in peril.
Yes.
And the bottom of the ocean. So they're somewhere between those 2 points, right? They're well beyond. I mean, there's no resurrecting their season. They traded for Jared Goff, who stinks, who was really propped up by Sean McVay's offensive system. And I mean, that was the thing that blew my mind about that move was not trading for him, because new coach, new staff, whatever. Yep. You want to suck for a year, get your own guy in. I realize you want to let Matthew Stafford go to somewhere good. Okay, fine. But not only did they trade for him, but then they renegotiated his contract to tie themselves to him for another year or two.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so yeah. So I don't know what they're thinking in the front office in Detroit. I never have understood them, even back to the Matt Millen days. Ever since Barry Sanders retired, that team has had no clue what they were doing with themselves.
Yes.
They drafted Calvin Johnson, which wound up being a really good player for them, and he broke the league's receiving record on a team that went 4-12. So Lions football. What are you gonna do? but like you said, they've played some teams tight this year, right? The Ravens needed a miracle to beat them.
Yep.
And the Steelers have been prone to playing to the level of their competition. Part of it, I think, this year is we don't have a great scoring offense, right? We don't put a lot of points on the board. So, if you're only scoring 16, 17, 20 points a game, as we saw with the Bears, even if you're up 20-6 and you're holding them, to just 2 field goals, if they score a touchdown, all of a sudden it's a one possession game, and who knows what can happen. So yeah, I mean, the Lions aren't good. They're not as bad as their 0-16 team. I'll say that team was dreadful.
I would agree.
They're not that bad. But yeah, I mean, I can see this being a close game that's closer for comfort. Yeah. And the thing about bad teams is you have to put them away early, because the longer you keep them in games and keep them within a couple scores, the longer they have hope. And all of a sudden, they score one fluke touchdown, whether who knows how it happens, but we've seen it time and again. I said a couple weeks ago, hey, the last time we had a 14-point lead was against Washington last year, and then they came back and wound up winning that game on that stupid field goal at the end of the first half. And then against Seattle, right, team with a backup quarterback, struggled on defense. We had a 14-0 lead. They got a weird field goal, and then all of a sudden hit a touchdown, and all of a sudden they're right back in the game. Same with Chicago. We were up by 14, and they get that fumble and score a touchdown. All of a sudden, it's a one possession game. And so, yeah, I mean, you gotta put teams away when you get a chance.
Ben, we've seen Jared Goff before. Back when he was with the Rams, he came into Pittsburgh. Fairly low scoring game, but if I recall,
Duck Hodges beat him, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, that was
that
was the game. I remember that because I was tweeting in all caps that Sean McVay only won with Jeff Fisher's players because Tomlin beat boy genius Sean McVay with Duck Hodges at quarterback.
I thought, if I remember correctly, our defense did pretty well against Goff, and I think there's an expectation that that's going to be very much in line for a repeat type performance. Is that something that you would sign up for as well?
Potentially. The thing that scares me about this game is that what's going to happen is exactly what happened last week. The Steelers are going to get up to a good lead, and they're going to get comfortable, and they're going to start playing soft defense and let the Lions get back into the game. As you pointed out before. So I just honestly don't have enough faith in the offensive side of the ball to be able to sustain drives in that kind of a situation. And if I had more, I'd be less concerned about it, but I don't.
I'm Najee Harris was listed as questionable today. I should say limited. He was knocked to.
Yeah, he was limited today, and I mean, there's speculation that he'll be questionable, but that won't come out till tomorrow afternoon.
Correct. And I'm not very thrilled with any of the running back options behind him. I don't even know why. Do we know why Anthony McFarland didn't get a helmet on Monday night?
I think they just
numbers. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I think they just thought, he didn't fit the game plan that they'd installed, and so they went with Snell, who I called him Benny Smells several times during the game.
Benny Smells.
I didn't say smells. I just said smell.
Smell.
Yeah, he just Benny's done. I don't. You hate to say that about a young player like that. Was he in his fourth year?
But he really hasn't. He looks basically the same as he always did.
No, he looks worse.
Yeah, I could argue that. Yeah.
I mean, and he hasn't played much, and that definitely has got to be getting to him. There's no question. But when he gets out and he gets those opportunities, he does the same thing every time. He stops short before the hole, tries to make someone miss, and gains a yard because he's tackled him in the hole. It's like, dude, why just hit the hole? Go.
Yep. Go.
God, you're not a make the guy miss player. Just go.
Right. No, I agree. Other guys, Ben is nursing pec and hip and shoulder and
Ben's nursing and everything.
Mid-season stuff.
That's very common for him. The Lions, Ian, you pointed out they played the Rams extremely tough. They took the Ravens to the absolute limit. So they're capable of playing hard and playing well. They're coming off a bye, so they'll be rested. I won't be surprised to see this a bit of an ugly one as well. But boy, it really gets the Steelers into a nice position here. If they can win this, they'll be 6-3, 8 games to go. A lot of them on the road, but puts them in a little bit better shape than I would have thought several weeks ago. Let's put it that way. Alex Highsmith is a guy. I think people are starting to talk about him a little bit more, and I'm just going to throw this out there. I think he's doing great. I think they obviously had great confidence in him enough to say, okay, Melvin, you're not playing as much, so we're going to trade you. Is Alex Highsmith doing enough in your opinion, Ian?
Oh yeah. I mean, he's
think so?
Actually, I mean, his run defense has improved tremendously.
Huge.
He's done a really good job setting the edge against the run. And I think that for a young player who was, a pass rusher in college, did he break Charlotte's sack record? Or I mean, he put up some pretty good numbers at Charlotte, I remember.
Good numbers, but I don't know about the record piece.
Yeah. But setting the edge in the run is something that usually comes with time, right? It's a learned skill, and it's a skill you can learn. It just usually takes time because usually these college pass rushers are just pass rushers and aren't so much run defenders. But he's done a really good job here in year 2, defending the run. And I mean, TJ Watt's getting so much attention on the other side that Highsmith's getting some good matchups, and he's creating some situations where it's not like Bud Dupree, running a loop,
the big arc
behind the quarterback. Yeah. Highsmith's running a tighter arc that's at least getting to the quarterback's spot and forcing him off that spot. And sometimes that results in TJ or Cam getting a sack, or just, them getting pressure and the quarterback having to throw the ball away. So I think he's doing really well. For a second-year player that was a late 3rd round pick, almost a 4th round pick. Yeah, I'm also a guy who, missed some time with a groin injury, and,
True.
For someone who uses leverage a lot in their game as an outside pass rusher, a groin's a pretty important muscle.
Ben, he's got 1.5 sacks. Would you expect him to have had more by now?
No, not necessarily. And he's getting a lot of pressures, and that, pressures are really valuable. Obviously, they don't put the team behind the chains the way a sack does, but they're still really valuable. So sure. I don't take issue with where he's at so far. I would expect him to get more sacks going into the later part of the season. He seems to be improving as a pass rusher each game, and I'm liking that. There were a couple times where I thought he was going to get sacks.
Yeah.
This last game, and he just got caught up in traffic and got knocked out at the last second.
Right.
Couldn't quite get there. That, and honestly, Fields is not an easy target to hit.
No. Moves well.
Yeah. We kept talking about the fact that if he decided to tuck the ball and run, they needed to make sure they hit him as hard as they could to make him think twice about doing it. But that's also easier said than done. He's a shifty guy in space, so he can, he can move out of the way and take a little bit off that hit.
Yeah, no question about it. It's something I've seen debated about Highsmith, and I do think it's way too early to cast any particular judgments on him. He, as Ian pointed out, he's been much better against the run. As you both mentioned, he's getting the pressures, and he's creating opportunities for other players, and I think that's an important part of it as well.
One other note on Highsmith too, since we're talking about him, he's played 7 games this year. Like you said, only has 1.5 sacks, but he's got 6 quarterback hits, which equals his entire total from last year, and 4 tackles for loss, and he had 5 in all of last year. So, I mean, once you know, if you just look at sacks, he's got 1.5 this year. He had 2 last year. He hasn't even played in every game this year. You know, okay, maybe he doesn't have the sacks, but the tackles for loss are just as good as a sack. The quarterback hits are not quite as good as a sack, but still pretty darn good.
Still damn important.
Yeah, and like Ben said with the pressures, he's getting there. I'm not worried about him.
Okay. Yep. That's something I wanted to throw out to you guys, get your feedback on it. So the Lions come in. It's a 1:00 game on Sunday. And Ben, what if you had to make a prediction, what do you have for the Lions and the Steelers? A classic old NFL matchup.
Steelers 28, Lions 20.
Woo, woo, woo. Oh, man, get those heart attack pills ready. Ian, what do you got?
Well, Ben almost stole my pick. So in honor of the Edmund Fitzgerald sinking, that there were 29 men on the ship, I'll say Steelers 29, Lions. Let me think about this. All right, so I think they can score. I'll say Lions 20. Yeah, I think 2 field goals and 2 field goals and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, probably one of them is going to be a weird touchdown, but yeah, probably 20. I was debating between 3 field goals and I think the Lions can score 4 times. I was debating between 3 field goals and 1 touchdown, or 2 field goals and 2 touchdowns. So yeah, I'll say 29-20.
Gotcha. I'm going to go 27-17 Steelers. I think the defense is going to get a score. Don't know why. Just got a gut feeling. Maybe it's the Jared Goff thing. I don't know. We just seem to be due for something like that coming forward. But so I'll go 27-17. And again, thanks to DEK Roofing for sponsoring the podcast. And best wishes to Ellie, who was here last week. She has returned home to the island. Liz has called her back, as she told us today in Slack. I don't know if you guys caught that.
Yeah. Had to go see Liz.
Otherwise known as Queen Elizabeth II.
Yes.
So she's actually back seeing her sister that she has not seen since the pandemic stuff started. So, feel great for her and stuff. But that'll do it for us, guys. And look forward to the game on Sunday, and then we'll be back next week. So thank you for listening to the SCB Steelers Podcast, presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And hey, go Steelers.
Ravens suck.